Are you a newer sales rep? Are you just kind of getting going in the position of sales? If so, you're in the right place because there are really some ideas that if you implement them, you are going to be getting moving so much more quickly than what you otherwise would. And I see it over and over and over again. There are some specific tips and strategies that if you implement them, you are going to be just absolutely blowing past people. It's wild. I see so often, particularly in organizations where there are classes of salespeople. And so you see some reps who just kind of chug along and are pretty mediocre and never do anything spectacular. Whereas other reps are already at the top of their company's ranks just within months of their job. In this video, I'm going to show you 9 tips for new salespeople to get you up to speed fast. Check it out. Number 1, model what works. You've probably heard the old saying, don't reinvent the wheel. That could not be more true in sales. Identify the people at your organization that are absolutely top performers. And depending on the size of your organization, there may only be one person that's actually a top performer. Or if you're at a big company, maybe there are a couple. I challenge you to find the absolute top performer and model exactly what they're doing. Ask if on your own time you can just ride along with them to find out what they're doing, to see what they're doing, to watch them. And at the same time, read books on sales processes. Watch videos just like this that are based on a data-driven approach to increasing your sales. Model exactly what works. Don't try to figure it out on your own the old-fashioned way by trying something and then seeing if it works. Instead, identify exactly the strategies that work and then use them. And don't be afraid if it goes wrong at first, not a big deal, but be willing to model exactly what works. Don't make it hard on yourself. Number 2, make mistakes. This is really key. I just want to be clear that what I'm not saying is don't just kind of come up with an idea willy-nilly and then go implement it. And then if it doesn't work, that's fine. No. I'm saying identify the strategy that works, either by modeling top performers or, identifying a sales system and then implementing it, and be willing to make tons of mistakes, be willing to piss people off, be willing to screw things up, be willing to blow up sales. Who cares? Be willing to make mistakes. The more you're willing to make mistakes, what's amazing is that actually the fewer you ultimately make. It's so wild, right? But just think about a different context, right? If you're really nervous to make any mistakes with something that you're learning, what's more likely to happen? You're more likely to screw things up. You're more likely to be shaking and to be nervous and sweating and freaking out. Instead, when you're willing to make mistakes, it doesn't matter. The worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work out. It's another mistake and you learn from it and you grow from it and then you implement differently the next time. Number 3, think big. It's crazy to me how so often newer sales reps think to themselves that they have to kind of start really small, and then once they've really got things figured out, then they can go up. Now, that's not entirely untrue, right? I mean, when you're first learning to sell, obviously your first few cold calls or your first appointments, you don't want to be with the CEO of IBM, but once you have a certain level of competency, I want you to just absolutely blow up. I want you to go way up the ranks and push it and make it big. Be willing to think big. Be willing to try out things at a high level. But what you're going to find is it is just as much work to close a sale with a small organization or with someone who's low level than it is to sell someone who's high level at a big organization. Yet the payoff is so different, right? Go for the bigger opportunities. Think big. Number 4, ask. Asking questions, really being in a position where you're just inquisitive is going to make you so much more attractive to everyone around you, both coworkers, potential mentors, and prospects. You don't have to have the solutions. Instead, just be curious, be inquisitive, be interested in what people are saying. The more you're asking questions, the more you're learning, the more you're really helping yourself, and at the same time, you're actually becoming more interesting to those people because you care. It's incredible. I see this all the time with people that I know when they get an opportunity to meet someone really important, maybe a celebrity or someone high level, and all they do is talk the whole time because they're nervous, and so they just start talking instead of just asking a really insightful question of that person, which is going to really engage them in a conversation and thus lead to a much more meaningful interaction. Be willing to just ask your prospects, people around you, potential mentors. While you're in this learning phase, you should always be asking. And by the way, there should never be a point at which you stop asking, because once you stop asking, what you're going to find is that you stop learning, you stop selling as much, and you become less effective. Number 5, hold yourself accountable to activities. This is really one of the most important ideas for new sales reps, is that so often I ask reps, I say, what do you think you need to do on a daily basis in order to hit your sales goal? And they say, I don't know. Get very clear on what are the sales activities that you need to be doing on a daily basis in order to hit your sales numbers, and focus only on them. Don't get sidetracked with all of the other stuff, all of the kind of like social media stuff or learning about the operations. I don't care about that. What I care about is that you focus on your sales activities. That could mean cold calls, sending sales emails, sitting in and observing top performing reps, sales training, whatever it is. Get clear on what are those activities that you need to be doing on a day-to-day basis in order to hit your sales goal, and don't do anything else. If it's not going to help you become a better salesperson, then it's not worth doing. Number 6, know your weekly meeting goal. This is really key, and it builds off the last idea, which is every new sales rep should know exactly how many meetings they should be conducting, sales meetings they should be conducting on a weekly basis. And once you know your number, that is the only number that matters. Because once you are focused exactly on hitting that number of meetings per week, let's say your goal is to set 5 meetings every single week. That's all that matters, is that you set those 5 meetings. And it's not a goal, it's an objective. If you don't set that number of meetings by Friday afternoon, you know what? You hang around the office Friday afternoon, Friday evening until you hit that meeting goal. You absolutely must be committed to hitting that meeting goal. And if you're not going to make it. Right? You need to be totally committed to hitting or exceeding that goal every single week. And if you're finding that you're consistently below it, you've got to raise the level of activity in order to hit that meeting goal. That's all that matters, is that you're getting those meetings. And you know what? Yeah, are you going to mess up some of those meetings? Sure. Are things going to go wrong? Yes. Are they going to be stressful and annoying sometimes? Yes. But you're going to learn, you're going to get better, and if you keep up that pace, you are going to hit your sales goals. Number 7, don't play by the rules. You know, it's funny because obviously a video like this, I'm laying out the tips, and some people might construe them as rules, but they're really not. They're just best practices of what top performers do when they just absolutely crush it in a new sales role. But on the other hand, you have all of these other average performers that think that there are these certain level of rules that they need to follow, which is, I'm only going to call on the low-level prospects, or, oh, I'm not ready to be in front of a prospect yet. All that stuff is crap. Don't play by the rules. Be aggressive. Get out there. Get in front of prospects. Try to make a cold call to the CEO of a big company. Who cares? If you get through to them, awesome. And by the way, even if you got through to them and you screwed it up and they told you that you were the dumbest, most annoying human being they've ever heard from, do you think they're going to remember who you are 3 weeks from now? No, of course not. They're not going to remember. So none of this stuff is permanent. You can always be willing to push the envelope, be willing to break rules, and ultimately be willing to make mistakes. It doesn't matter. And ultimately, if you are willing to make those mistakes, you are going to hit such higher sales numbers than just the average rep. Number 8, learn, study, read, refine. This is a key process to actually growing as a salesperson. You need to be willing to learn a process. That means observing people. That means reading books. That means following sales training programs. Be really a student. If you're not going to be, and by the way, maybe you weren't a great student in high school, who cares? What matters is that you are going to be a student now, because you care, because if you are killing it, you're making a lot of money, and so there's a lot of motivation to get really good, to study your craft, be willing to read books, understand processes, Read what other people are doing. Watch what other people are doing. Top performers. Not everyone in your office, just top performers. People that are killing it. And then ultimately refine what you're doing. Go out and implement it and then refine it. Come back and refine. Just identify, okay, this went well, this didn't go well, and refine. But be constantly growing. Be willing to learn, study, read, and then refine. Number 9, SW cubed N. Yes, you heard me right. SW cubed N. Now, you're thinking math? Well, kind of. SW cubed N stands for some will, some won't, so what? Next. SW cubed N. Some will, some won't, so what? Next. As a new rep, you've got to be willing to mess things up. I mean, you probably at this point are catching a theme in this video, which is that it doesn't matter. If you piss someone off and they kick you out of their office, so what? Next. Move on. Tell someone about it. It's probably a funny story. Move on, learn from it, and grow. I remember the first time that I got kicked out of a prospect's office. It was the president of a credit union local to where I grew up in the town of Easton, Massachusetts. And I met with him and I just completely butchered the conversation, but I kept pushing him. And it finally got to the point where he said, you know what, you've got to leave. And I was completely floored. I didn't expect it. But you know what? It was a hilarious story that I told people back at the office. After that, I thought, well, I've been kicked out of an office now once. Can't get worse than this, right? It doesn't matter. Some will, some won't. So what? Next. Be willing to screw things up. Be willing to scrape your elbows, bump your knees, break fingernails. It doesn't matter. Just constantly be learning and growing and moving on to the next thing. So there are the 9 tips for new salespeople to get up to speed fast. And if you enjoyed this video, then I have an awesome free training on the data-driven approach to help you crush your sales goals. Just click right here to get registered instantly. Seriously, just click right here. This is an in-depth training that will help you close more sales at higher prices, all while generating more meetings. Also, if you got some value, please like this video below on YouTube and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking my face right about here to get access to a new video just like this one each week.